Hi, and welcome to episode 12 of Tennis Volley Talk by Brian Danielson. In this particular episode, I am going to be kind of talking about Grand Slam tennis and what that all kind of means, how it's kind of misused sometimes as far as what players, when they say they win a Grand Slam, and then also talking about maybe stringing rackets. How many of you do string your own rackets and stuff like that? But with that too, and also racket of the day. So if you want to subscribe to my channel, Tennis Volley Talk, and tell me what you like in the comments. And then also you podcasters, if you want to see what I'm talking about, you can also join and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Tennis Volley Talk, with that. So, with that in mind, it's I'm kind of just with this and just kind of saying that with saying a tennis player won a Grand Slam, it could mean that he won one of the Grand Slam tournaments, but meaning a Grand Slam tennis is winning all four major tennis tournaments in 1 year. And there has not been that many that have done it. Actually, there has been more women that have done it than there has been men doing it. Actually, 5 altogether that have done that in the history of playing tennis. One of those which winning it twice, one of the men. But with that in mind, it's just the fact that one of the ones that have been on and winning the tournaments, the Grand Slam tournaments, and the most tournaments that have been won have been 22, and that by Novak Djokovic and Rafa Nadal. They surpassed Roger Federer, that now has retired, with 20. The two of them have 22 each. So coming into the clay court season and the French Open right now, it's really kind of dependent on who might win the French Open, and either Rafa, if Rafa does play, or Novak Djokovic, both of which are very good players. Now, on to this, as far as that goes with who has won the Grand Slam in tennis. First of all, it was American Don Budge in 1938, U.S. woman Maureen Connolly back in 1953, and then Rod Laver, Australia, back in 62 and 69, that he ended up winning the Grand Slam in tennis, all 4 tournaments in 1 year. And Margaret Smith Court of Australia in 1970, and then Steffi Graf in 1988. However, she did it and called it, and really was the Golden Slam, because she did it and won the gold also in the 1988 Olympics. So she ended up being kind of a little bit extra in winning the Gold Slam with that. There's been some double teams that have won the Grand Slam too, such as Frank Sedgman and Ken McGregor back in 1951. They ended up winning it. Marcia Bueno of Brazil played with both Daniel Hard, Darlene Hard, and Christine Truman in 1960. And then, of course, Martina Navratilova and Pam Shriver won it back in 1984. Martina Navratilova and Switzerland player with both Marigina Lucic and Jana Novotnin back in 98, then also won the Grand Slam in tennis with that. So that a little bit of history of who has won the Grand Slam tennis in tennis history with that. And, also kind of wanting to let people know that that how it can be misconstrued as far as when you say you've won a Grand Slam. Well, that's one of the Grand Slams that you won, either the U.S. Open, the French U.S. Open, or Australian, French, U.S. Wimbledon, and then U.S. Open uh, is what's considered. And Djokovic came really close one year in 21, where he won three, got into the US Open, and he lost to Daniil Medvedev. And that he was unable to win the Grand Slam in tennis. Would have been an accomplishment, but he did look very tired by the end of that run that he had. And Daniel Medvedev played very well and beat him in doing that also with that. So that's kind of a little bit of the history of Grand Slam tennis. As far as that goes, what Grand Slam tournament do you like best? You can leave in comments. YouTubers, and be sure and subscribe to my channel and leave comments. And also, you podcasters, if you want to take a look at what I'm talking about and see, go to my YouTube channel, because I will be having a racket of the day that you can actually see the racket and learn a little bit of the history and the racket itself. As far as that goes, one of my mini rackets that I have that you can take a look at. So be sure and you podcasters can go to my YouTube channel, Tennis Volley Talk, and subscribe and leave comments too, what you would like to talk about also. Now, with that too, I'm kind of a little curious, and if you want to leave comments on it too, you tennis players, how many of you tennis players actually string your own tennis rackets? I happen to have a stringer that my dad had purchased for a Christmas present for me, and I've had it for at least 10 years plus, and I string my own tennis rackets. But, however, you got to pay the person who's stringing the racket, and oh my gosh. So do you pay yourself to string your own rackets? And then, of course, you got to have your friends that may come over, and you can string the rackets for them, and then charge them some. A lot of the tennis shops and stuff, they do charge quite a bit to string the rackets for you. And you can be reasonable. You can go with stringing a racket anywhere from 15 all the way up to $25 for per racket. That if you want to string a racket, you can do that also. I just happen to string rackets myself. I pay myself what I would pay, or what somebody pays me to string my racket. So kind of have to reinvest in that part of it with stringing your rackets too. So yeah, that's kind of the aspect of it. I have a gamma racket stringer myself. It's a weight situated where you put the weight on a bar, and then you can flip it over, and then that pulls the string that then tightens the racket string to whatever poundage you have it set at. And then, stringing a racket is also kind of an intricate kind of a thing also with that too. For those of you who have not strung a racket or don't have a stringer, wonder kind of how it's done is you have main strings on a racket, the main strings going up and down. Then you also have the cross strings that are going cross, the main strings going up and down. So, and the cross strings, you're kind of weaving like a basket in a way, or a rug weaving. You have to go from over, under, and always end up with, you start with an over, you got to end with an under at the other end of the racket, and you put it through the hole and then tighten it up, and then you do the same thing back and forth all the way down. So stringing patterns are different. Some stringing patterns are 16 across, and then 19 or 18 down cross strings. Main strings are 18, cross strings can be 18, 19 across or down. So, and also kind of where you have to end up being on the right side with that, you have to skip certain holes in order for it to be strung the right. So you have 8 on each side, and usually how you end up starting it, and you start to string it, then you kind of pull for the short side of the racket of if it's a 16, so it's 8 on each, 8 strings, main strings on each side. So you can do that, and you pull that through. And what I end up doing is I just kind of pull it up, and then I do it the length of the racket head, and I pull 8 length of that and 8 times. So then that's the short side of the racket, and then you do that. You try to like it, even it up though too. So when you're stringing it, you go a certain amount of times on the short side, and then you try to catch up with the longer side to try to make it even, so the frame of the racket isn't stressed that much on the frame of the racket. And then you just kind of you do that, and you then finish the main strings, which are the up and down, and then you start with the cross strings, and then you start, like I said, if you start with an over at the very side of the one hole, and then you have to end up with an under at the other end, then you put it through and then tighten it in whatever poundage you want. Usually rackets nowadays somewhere around about 50, 55. You can go if you want more control. You can go a little tighter. If you want more power, then you're going to have to loosen the string where you have a little bit more bounce, and a trampoline effect from the ball hitting it gives it a little bit more power instead of uh, 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 control. It's a tighter, you can have a little bit more control over it too with that also. So with that in mind, you can also, uh, with that in mind, you can also, have a nice strong racket with that. Either way you go. But usually 55 is a good in between number that's good all the way around, and it just kind of feels better. You can have control, you can have power with it either way you go with the racket also. So with that too, also, I just want to start with racket of the day here. And this racket is a very old racket, and it's an A.G. Spalding racket, and it's actually patent date August 29th, 1922 is when that patent date is. And with the racket here, 1922, a Spalding racket, HAW racket, which I would probably think that that would be Jack Hawk's racket, because that he used to sponsor Spalding back in the day, and HAW meaning maybe that's just who the first initials of his last name, Hawks. And also, it was, with this racket too, it was also strong moisture, permanent, strong, moisture-proof tennis string is what this is. And this is the original string, probably either cow gut or cat gut with that, and then with the little strings at the bottom. So 1929 is kind of what they made this racket out of and with. A.J. Spalding Company is really actually kind of started out in 1876 by Albert Spalding, and with that, but it was mainly with baseball at first. He was also a manager and a pitcher for the Chicago White Stockings back in the day. that he was uh, uh, which he then won 200 games as a pitcher, and then was able to lead the Boston White Sox to 4 major titles. You know, and A.J. Spalding and brothers were in Chicago uh, and did baseballs, and then Spalding did baseballs and was the official ball of the National League for 100 years, from 1876 to 1976, and then 1870, and then American League was a ball from 1889 to 1973. And even though it was known for baseball, it expanded into other sports as tennis back in the day too, and sold the Slocum racket, tennis racket. And Slocum was a winner of the U.S. singles championships back in 1888 and 1889. But that racket was made in Belgium. But of course, Spalding also had the U.S. manufacturer back then with that. However, because of that, Spalding shipped the rackets overseas, and then they were manufactured and shaped into the rackets they had overseas back then. And they were the frames were shipped, like I said, overseas, and then in various designs. In 1926, they were top of the line Crobat, the Greenwood back there, and were then made more in the U.S. So then the U.S. tennis players, or tennis players back then, started sponsoring and going with sponsor with tennis, which happened to be Bill Tilden, Bill Johnson, Jack Hawks, and Pat O'Hara. 1927, Top Flight with the split throat racket made its appearance. By 1929, rackets were produced in the USA. The Davis Cup models and Peerless and the Endura were made then back in the day with Spalding, meaning, of that. So kind of a little bit of the Spalding manufacturer with that racket that I showed you. Now, also, like I said, you can also go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, let me know what you think of, and any kind of comments you might want to leave, what you might want to hear later on. I'm trying, also with the getting into the clay court season, we're starting gearing up for getting into the French Open. And so Monte Carlo is going on right now. And just want to congratulate this last weekend on Jobber winning over Belinda Bencic, getting revenge against her from the year before in Charleston, South Carolina, one of the first clay court tournaments, getting ready for the clay court season. So yeah, everybody, like I said, you podcasters also, if you want to see what I was talking about with the Spalding racket that I had, patent date 1929. So go to my YouTube channel, Tennis Volley Talk, and take a look at it. And then also subscribe if you want to with that too. So with that in mind, I just wanted to say, if anybody is getting out and playing tennis, it's starting to get nice out there right now with everything. And then if you do get out there, start playing, enjoy the week of tennis, and have a good day. And like I said, be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Tennis Volley Talk, and you podcasters, if you want to take a look at the racket of the day and see what I was talking about. Then it's always nice to be able to see. And also subscribe if you want to, or leave a comment, or what you might want to hear me talk about later on. I can try to do that also. So later on, I'm going to try to get a little bit more of some other friends of mine that may come in studio and talk to me about their tennis career. Might have another person that have had just closed up a tennis shop that I will get an interview with later on and see from there and see what other episodes I will be coming up with. So, everybody have a great week in tennis, and I thank you so much and have a great day.